The story's called The Full Jew Stone. Your ship, love, is moored head stern for a full Jew. Full Jew, complete, for good, forever. Below Craig'a Wood, at the head of Glendon, is St. Patrick's Church, which stands on a site of worship thought to date back to the 1500s, a time before the Reformation in Ireland. 30 feet from the upper gable of the church lies a flat tombstone on which the following is inscribed by hand. Charles McAllister's burying place, here lies the body of John, his son. Died 11th of March 1803, aged 18 years. At the centre of the stone is inscribed a sailing ship, moored head and stern, with a goat looking down from above. So, who was John McAllister, and what is the story behind the inscription on that tombstone? For this is the full Jew story. John McAllister was born in the parish of Colfeitron in 1785. His father Charles was a seafaring man, and John followed in his footsteps, setting out to sea to make his fortune. He had a sweetheart since childhood days, and in early 1803, on one of his sea journeys to Liverpool, sent her a letter containing a proposal of marriage. In it, he promised her that he would marry her as soon as he was paid off, which he guessed would be in no more than 2 or 3 weeks' time. Now, even in those days, there were many preparations to be made, and the young girl's parents sent her to a cousin in Glenravel who would prepare the wedding dress. And so, accompanied by her father and sister, she headed off over the mountains. A short while later, a schooner was sighted approaching the bay of Cushendalll. A small rowing boat was lowered, while a welcoming party assembled on the beach. At its head stood old McAllister, smiling broadly, in expectation that it might be young John finally coming ashore. Now, as the boat drew near, a sort of bundle covered by a sheet could clearly be seen in the stern, and a hush of foreboding fell upon the small party. A voice from the boat called out, "Anyone here named Charles McAllister?" "I'm Charles McAllister, sir. What do you want of me?" "We have the body of your son. He took passage with us, meaning to go ashore here, but when he was up in the rigging, eager to get a glimpse of his homeland, he slipped somehow, and he hit the deck. He was dead by the time we reached him." Amid a general lamentation, the body was carried up to the McAllister home, waked there that night, as was the custom, and buried the next morning after Requiem Mass. Back in Glenravel, on the very day that John was buried, his bride-to-be was starting back home in a cart laden with her wedding finery and presents. On her arrival home, the sad task of breaking the terrible news fell to the girl's mother. The shock caused the young girl to faint right away, and when she came round, she sat motionless, unable to speak. Then as dusk approached, she got up, donned her black shawl, and walked out without a word. No one tried to stop her, for they thought she intended going over to old McAllister to share her sorrow. But much later, when she did not return, one of her brothers went round to the McAllister homestead, only to find she had never been there. In great haste, a search party was formed, and just as dawn was breaking over the hills, someone thought to look in the graveyard, and the search was over. There they found her dead body stretched over her lover's grave, and in her hand the flint with which she had inscribed the etchings on the tombstone. Now, it wasn't until her body was interred that someone noticed the writing and etchings on the stone, and the meaning stumped many curious visitors to the graveyard, until one Mr. Sam Henry from Coleraine finally made sense of most of it. For Sam was a nautical historian, and while delving through some old naval records, noticed a term dating back to the days of the wooden ships with their billowing sails, and he recalled it now, the full Jew. It happened, he said, when a ship would be taken out of commission and the crew would receive all the leave that had added up during their voyage. That is, they received their full due. The sad tale was handed down across the generations, and by the 1900s it had become part of the folklore of the place. Indeed, a version of the story was brought by travellers on horseback around the glens, and in this the ending was altered, where the unfortunate girl was found dead on the rocks by the sea. Both versions are believable. In recent times, an interested observer noted how the inscription in Craiga was remarkably similar to an epitaph on an earlier tombstone in Kent from 1801. He researched further and found it belonged to Tom Edgar, a lieutenant in the Royal Navy, amongst whose achievements had been to circumnavigate the globe as first mate to Captain James Cook. His epitaph reads, "At last he has sailed out of this world. His shroud is put on, and his topsails are furled. He lies snug in death's boat without any concern, and is moored for a full due ahead and astern. O'er the compass of life he has merrily run, his voyage completed, his reckoning done." You would agree that these are fine sentiments, and they bear a close resemblance to those on the full dew stone, which still draws curious visitors who like to pause and reflect in that little country churchyard.
Now, isn't that just the saddest story you've ever heard in your life? I think the saddest thing is that we don't know her name. We know nothing about her. So I wrote this song for her. Oh, the life of a sailor is cruel and short, with the perils of the ocean and the dangers on the shore. My love, he was sailing till Cushendalll Bay, and tomorrow was to be our wedding day. Now his mother is weeping, and his father will mourn, for no more you'll come sailing to the place where you were born. Your full due is paid, and your anchor is weighed. Now you're sailing on the high seas of heaven. So I'll unpick my fine linens and lay them aside, all the ribbons and the laces intended for a bride. For no more you'll come sailing into the bay, and there never now will be a wedding day. Your father is mourning, and your mother will weep, but I'll lie here on your gravestone and pray for a long sleep. And I will hope that the Lord of the sea and the sky